Hello everyone, this is Hossein Mokhtarzadeh and you're watching my program on strategy. Since the world is changing fast these days, we probably need to adjust our strategies in life and or our career to achieve our goals. So I ask experts about their strategies following and during pandemic. So I'm happy to introduce you to Mr. Richard Triggs, who is a founder and CEO of Arete executive search specialist and career coach. As a rock star in his domain, he's also an author of a book, Uncover the Hidden Job Market, podcast host, and keynote speaker. Welcome, Richard.
Lovely to be here, Hossein. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much for taking the time. How are things these days?
Well, so my core business is I own a small executive headhunting company. So we are retained by organisations to go out and headhunt them a new CEO or a new board director or what have you. And certainly coronavirus lockdown has slowed down the recruitment market, and all of the negativity and the discussions about going into a recession and so on is keeping recruitment slower than it would be otherwise. Although it's interesting because I run groups or forums, I call them champion forums, where I get CEOs together to talk about what's going on in their business and so on. And I have about 100 CEOs participating in that a month.
Wow, amazing.
And I would say 95% of those businesses, when I say to them, how has coronavirus affected you? They say, business as usual.
Oh, really? That's neat. That's good.
Very, very, very few have suffered as a result.
So right? Can you tell me what areas mainly they are, or they're already
all
over?
Not-for-profit, mining, energy, consulting, all different kinds. The only person that really has been negatively impacted was a company having product manufactured in China and having issues with their supply chain. But other than that, they said, look, Richard, it's a bit frustrating, this working from home, and it's frustrating, that we can't travel, but we've still got budgets to achieve and projects to deliver, and, business is good. But then, of course, you turn the news on and you think, oh my God, we're going to enter into a huge recession and all be unemployed, and the media loves bad news. So I'm just trying to recall what your original question was. What took me off?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah, I was asking that how are things in.
That's right. So so there's a couple of other things I do. One is I coach senior executives through their job search, which is kind of counter-cyclical. So if there's a lot of companies recruiting, I put my attention there, and then if there's less recruitment happening, I put my attention on helping the individual executive to create their next job opportunity. So that kind of allows me to sort of even it out. And then, as I said, I'm running these champion forum groups for C-level executives. And so between all of those things, I'm exceptionally busy. Certainly, I haven't seen any slowdown. I've had to slow myself down because 4 weeks ago, I broke my arm.
Oh, really? Sorry for that.
Falling off an electric scooter. And it's my right arm, and I am right-handed. So
oh my gosh. Yeah.
I think the universe has said to me, Richard, we're going to make you slow down whether you like it or not.
That's actually amazing. So I would love to come back to your forum that you talked about. I would love to hear more about this one. But I was reading, I think it was a news, or I don't know when I was reading it, was saying that employees, most of them, like about 60-70%, are okay with lockdowns or not just working from home, but CEOs didn't like it as much. Is it the case that you are hearing the same story, or?
The CEO, so the staff enjoyed working from home, but the CEOs don't enjoy working from home.
Is that the case?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had one of my forums this morning, and it's the second time it's come up in 2 weeks, where a CEO said, look, my staff don't want to come back to the office. They're saying, oh, this working from home is fantastic. And whilst the CEO is not concerned about productivity, in fact, productivity, if anything's improved. So it's not like they're saying we don't want people to work from home because we don't trust them to do a good job. What they're concerned about is how do you maintain a good company culture when people are not socializing with each other. You know, they're coming together for their Zoom meeting or whatever, but that whole, you know, hang around the tea room while you're making a cup of tea, or, you know, they're just all of those sort of cultural things. What their real concern is, will we be able to sustain our business with an excellent culture if we don't have people come back to work?
So what is that? That's actually a good point, because I was discussing with someone else and this one was brought up that, oh yeah, the culture may not be transferred, or even a new person would come and they would. But the thing is, of course, this time pandemic is difficult, so you're not gonna get together, of course. But even if things go back to sort of normal,
Yeah.
so we can sort of manage it in the sense that every month or two we can get together. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to
Look,
look
there
at
are
it.
companies. I mean, Rio Tinto built a new sort of state-of-the-art office here in Brisbane a few years ago, and the whole culture in Rio Tinto is hot desk. So
Right.
you might come in for a half day twice a week, and you arrive and you grab your little portable sort of filing cabinet, and you'll say, okay, team, let's all sort of get in room, blah, blah, blah. But the rest of the time you work from home. And so it's this kind of flexible workplace. But one of the guys who was on my call, my Zoom call this morning, is the CEO of a very, very, very big company.
Mm-hmm.
And he's working from home 3 days a week and traveling in 2 days a week. And he is absolutely and utterly loving it, you know.
Cool. He's the CEO you mentioned.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, look, you know, it's like anything. I'm a Gen Xer, and I think and most CEOs would probably be similar sort of age to mine. And yes, unless there are young sort of tech startup type groovers, you know, we're used to seeing people in the workplace. We're used to being able to go, hang on, Hossein, what do I do about this? And being able to turn my head, and, you know, so it's change. And there are going to be people who adapt to change really successfully, and there are going to be others who don't. And that's that's just part of life, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think this is this discussion can go on and on. You know, people would have different ideas. You know, like, oh, some people would like it, but most people seems to be liking it, at least employees.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that things will change. But I want to come back to your book, and which is going to really help many people in that area, because these days, definitely, as you mentioned, like, so many companies are doing well, and most of your clients are doing well, which is great to hear, which means the business in Australia hopefully will recover faster, if we can get rid of it in Victoria. So this is quite challenging. But is there any kind of advice that you are giving these days for people who are really looking?
As to what, how to find a job?
Yes.
Sure. That's probably one of the things that I'm most known for, because, you know, owning an executive recruitment business, I get literally 15 people plus a week who ring me up or email me and say, oh, Richard, I was talking to my friend Hossein and he said I should talk to you. I'd like to get some advice about my job search. And, you know, I don't have time to meet with all of these people individually. So I used to run a little workshop called Always Stand Out, and I've had about 2,500 people go through that. Oh, wow. I didn't do it for the money. It was only $47. But I wanted to be able to support and help people with advice whilst also being protective of my time. And then what I did was I converted the content of that presentation into my book, Uncover the Hidden Job Market. So now somebody rings up and says, oh, my friend Hossein said I should call you. I say, excellent, let me send you my book, have a read, and then if I can help you further, I'm happy to chat.
I think people can get access to your book easily if they email you, and okay. Excellent.
Just get on our website and you'll find a link to get a free book. So again, you know, I didn't write the book to make money. I wrote the book so that I could give people a resource which would be helpful, but also would preserve my time, right?
Definitely.
And so the whole context of my book is that at least 80% of jobs, they're never advertised, they never get to a recruiter, they're never in the open job market. So if your job search, and this is equally true if you're a CEO or, a graduate engineer, right?
Sure.
If your job search is limited to, I'm going to watch the job boards and apply for jobs, then number one, you're seeing a very small percentage of the roles. And number two, the competition for those roles is massive. Okay. And because recruiters are lazy and stupid, right? And I'm a recruiter, so I fit into that. Because we're lazy and stupid, all we want to do is put a square peg into a square hole. So if we get 200 applications for a job and you're not exactly a square peg for that square hole, you're probably not going to get considered.
Definitely.
And as a job seeker, again, whether you're 22 years old or whether you're 62 years old, these frustrations of, I know I'm capable, I know I'm qualified, I know I can do this job standing on my head, but this idiot recruiter is, not shortlisting me for interview. It's extremely frustrating. So what I'm saying to people you need to do is you need to go directly to your employer of choice. Because if you can get in front of them before they know that they need you, and you can take away their pain, solve their problems, make them more successful, they will hire you whether they had an actual vacancy or not, right? And everybody knows that this is true. If I go through most people's CVs who, are more experienced executives, and I say, well, how did you get each of these jobs? Very few of them came from applying for a job on Seek. It's, I knew this guy and then he moved there, or this woman was my client, or whatever it was. But for some reason, they forget that. And then they suddenly, I'm being made redundant, or, I'm looking for a new job. They go, well, I better start talking to some recruiters and apply for jobs on Seek. Nothing wrong with that, but you're going to get a much, much better result going directly to the employer. And one of the fantastic things about LinkedIn is it's giving much more immediate access. So organizations can access talent, and talent, the job seeker, can access their employer of choice. So anyway, I've been banging this drum, Hossein, for, at least 7 years, right?
Wow.
I've sold or given away at least 10,000 copies of my book.
Wow, that's amazing.
98% of people who ring me up, Richard, I read your book. It was so interesting. It was so practical, blah, blah, blah. I say, excellent. How are you going in terms of reaching out to your employers of choice to get in front of them before they know that they need you? And 98% of them say, I'm not doing it. Right?
So why is that?
Well, I think, fundamentally, they're either too lazy or they're too scared of rejection, right?
I think this is right. Fear of rejection is
But if you
huge.
think about it, Hossein, you're not as nearly as old as I am, but, back in the day before recruiters and so on, how would you get a job, right? My first job was working in cleaning a butcher shop on a weekend.
Yeah.
How did I get the job? I walked into the butcher shop.
That's it.
Said,
I need a job.
I've got some skills, can I be of value to your business? And they go, oh yeah, we'll create a job for you, right?
That's right. Is it Richard? Sorry to interrupt you. Does it have to do with because of all these changes that happening? Our ego also changes, and it becomes bigger and bigger. And we think, we should just wait for the opportunity.
Look, there's definitely people who say that. I'm at an age where I think people should be coming to me, right? And what I say to those people, if they've been unemployed or underemployed for 6, 8, 12 months or beyond, I say, well, how's that working out for you? It's not working out very well if you don't have a job, is it? So maybe it's time to, very Australian expression, put your big boy pants on, and actually get out there and talk to your employers of choice.
Exactly.
But people are so reluctant to do it. And yet the employer wants you to do it because they want to hire top talent. Exactly. And they can't hire top talent if they don't know who you are, right? Now, if they have to go to a recruiter, they may be spending $20, $30, $50, $100,000 in recruitment fees to recruit you. I'm sure that they would much rather get you for free.
Yep.
Right? So whilst what I'm saying makes complete practical sense,
Yeah, it's very practical.
it,
Yep.
you know, there's a difference between saying, yep, I get it, and I'm doing it, right? So that's why one of the services that I offer is to coach people through their job search, because they need me to be giving them a gentle kick up the backside
That
and
motivation.
keeping them and motivated, right? And then one of the things you want to go back to or talk about in a minute is these champions forums, but I think people by nature, they don't like change. And so they would rather sit there and apply. So I say, oh, how's your job search going? Oh, I'm making sure that I apply for at least 20 jobs a week. Okay, that's excellent. How many interviews are you getting? None?
0.
Right. So why is continuing to apply for 20 jobs a week going to get you a better result if it's not getting you a result now? The truth is the result.
That's exactly, sorry to interrupt you, Richard. That's exactly one of the reason I started, not just because of this, with other things about pandemic, that is strategy. I think if you have a specific strategy and you get it, and if I use that, I'll probably get it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole thing. If I don't get it, so there seems to be, so I have to just look at myself, say, okay, maybe something wrong with my strategy.
Right.
Is that right? So
are you saying if people don't understand it, the issue is with you in the way you communicate it,
exactly,
rather than them in the way they hear it? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I think there is definitely truth to that. But I think that, people, it's such a paradigm shift. I approach my employers of choice directly. Well, it's not really a paradigm shift. People have been doing this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, but it's getting people to trust in the process. If you just follow these simple steps, which are clearly outlined in my book, which I get no money for, right? So other recruiters are saying to me, Richard, what are you doing this for? This is actually costing us money. And I go, well, the reality is, recruiters, you're pretty crap at your job, right? So, but again, I can sort of shout from the top of the mountains, as I am, you need to do this. But until somebody actually says, you know what, I'll try it and see what happens. And then all of a sudden they go, holy mackerel, this actually works. Yeah, it does work, right? But you have to take action.
That's exactly right. So I sometimes talk to friends about this and say, at the end of the day, you need just one job, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just one job. So it's not about like how many jobs you apply or how many opportunities you noticed, or you go through that, or even talk. So that's why I had another friend actually talking about, you probably are expert in this, about informational interview. So sort of like interview people before really they advertise anything, or just like talk to them if you have a company of choice.
Yeah.
Just try to find people and from that company and just talk to them. Don't even talk about like, oh, I need a job or anything.
For sure. Yeah, that's exactly right. So what I suggest that people do is when they reach out, so let's assume that you're in the employer, I wouldn't reach out and say, Hossein, have you got a job? Right? What I do is, what I encourage people to do is to reach out and say, Hossein, I'd really appreciate it if you could help me, please. I'd love to have a chat to you about my skill set and get your advice about the market, right? So that way, number one, people love to help people. So if I ask somebody for help, naturally your inclination is to say, sure, I'd love to help you. And then number two, I respect you enough that I want your advice, rather than give me a job. Now, of course, if they choose to meet with you, they have an agenda. These are busy people, right? So if the person says, yeah, I'm happy to meet with you, you can assume that they're already thinking about, I wonder whether this person would be good in joining my business. And it is so easy to do, and yet so few people do it. That is from coming back to strategy in relation to job search. You have to do something to stand out from the crowd, right? My webinar presentation, this is called Always Stand Out. It is, it's not enough to just be well qualified, right? You are being employed and promoted based on your ability to achieve great outcomes, and so the more you can get in front of people who will value those outcomes, the more quickly you'll get a fantastic job.
That is amazing. Yeah, this is really important, especially these days that lots of people actually, because I got even contacted by quite senior people, and you probably every day you deal with these kind of things that they want, if there's any opportunity out there, So it seems that even after these many years, we haven't developed that skill set,
Yeah.
to just go about this type of things. So I'll recommend your book. Definitely can help, and they can contact you, whereas watching or listening to our program. But I want to go back to your forum or champion forum. So
Mm-hmm.
why CEOs come to your?
So I have three different types of forums. Now, up until the start of coronavirus, so this is an example of pivoting. So I ran a thing called Breakfast of Champions, and I would get, roughly 12 C-suite executives and CEOs together, very confidential environment where they can come in and they can talk about what's really going on for them. Being a CEO can be, or even a C-suite executive, a senior executive, it can be very lonely, right?
Sure.
You get under all this pressure. You can't talk to your boss about it. You can't talk to your team about it. You don't want to talk to your peers about it. You don't want to go home and talk to your partner about it.
Yes.
So who do you get to talk to about these things? And so there are a number of competitive products in the market which are at least 10 times the price of mine. I know that, well, they are now, but anyway, so substantially more expensive. All right, but I want to, like my recruitment solutions, I want to make it so that price is the least of the reasons you wouldn't want to do it, right? So, I was running this breakfast. We had 5 groups of 12 people meeting, and then of course coronavirus comes along. No longer can I use a venue, and so one of the guys who was in one of my groups said, "Richard, why don't you put it into a Zoom format?" And I was concerned about people's ability to develop the level of rapport and trust with somebody that you don't sit in the same room with, right? But I thought, okay, well, we'll give it a go. And anyway, suffice to say, 3 months later, feedback fantastic.
Awesome.
So I thought, okay, well, I'll pivot now and I'll make this a much bigger part of my business. Previously, it was just something I did for fun, right? So now I can have people who are in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. I have in one of my groups the CEO of one of the biggest superannuation funds in Italy. I've got a guy delivering a $4 billion project in Houston, Texas. I've got a lady who runs a steel company in Sweden, right? But I've got all of these different people. Some groups are for CEOs / managing directors. Some groups are for C-suite executives who are in a job, and some groups are for C-suite executives who are actively looking for a job, right? Okay. And so, people can come in and they can talk about whatever's on their mind. So one of the things, was this guy saying, it's time to get my business back up and running, but my staff won't come back to the office. And I don't know what to do. All right. Another person, what's another example? Running a major not-for-profit and thinking, I need to identify other ways to raise revenue because we generated a huge percentage of our revenue from running events, and obviously we haven't been able to run events. So if I can't find an alternative way to find revenue, we're in big trouble. And so you're sitting in a room with 12 other C-suite executives, all very experienced, all different backgrounds, different industries, etc., and having this really dynamic conversation as if you've got your own personal board. Now, somebody might come in and talk about something which is very minor. Somebody might come in and talk about something which is really, life-changing for them. And what happens is, by coming in and remaining with the same group of people, you're building this trust and this rapport. They become your brothers and sisters, because you can walk in there and you can take this corporate mask off and you can go, oh, do you know what? This is happening at work and I'm really scared, right? What do I need to be thinking about? And because these people all want each other to achieve their highest career, potential, the sort of advice and the strategies and the have you thought about this and so on. I love it. It's very humbling for me just running this little recruitment business.
That's amazing.
But
so you're facilitating basically.
Yeah. I've done this kind of work for about 25 years. Not in a corporate context so much, but I lived 1 week in a month for 4 years in the biggest Buddhist monastery in the Southern Hemisphere. So, I really immersed myself for 4 years in learning Buddhist philosophy. And I don't regard myself as a Buddhist, but I think they had some very smart ideas. The stuff they were talking about 2,500 years ago that now quantum scientists are just discovering. You go, wow, that's pretty amazing, right? So, so I've done a whole heap of, personal work, meditation retreats and all different kinds of things. So I don't think that I'm uniquely positioned to do this, but I think that, I'm able to get a bunch of 12 CEOs in the room or C-suite executives that are all really busy people, for 3 hours and just sit there and just be 100% engaged in it. It's fantastic.
It's amazing. It shows how much hunger or thirsty we are. So in
connection.
at any level, sort of it doesn't make you may feel like, oh, because this person is CEO, so has got everything, so basically can solve any problem. This is amazing, especially in our Australian culture, which is multicultural, basically. Melbourne, Brisbane, so because I've seen people coming from different backgrounds, coming from different cultures, may not easily be able to communicate. So have you had this type of discussions as well within your?
Look, I've got some Asian executives in my groups, some Indian executives in my groups, people from Africa, all different kinds of backgrounds.
So how do they feel? Like, how do they basically, because, we have like tall poppy here in Australia. We have this,
I think, I think for many of them, once they get in, it's almost like a relief. I finally found a place that I can unburden myself without judgment, right?
That is,
and so I think whether you're from the Middle East or from Australia or from, Sweden, fundamentally, we're all people. We all want connection and we all want to be heard, right? And again, often, I think about in my job, for example, I have employers ringing me up and they want me to help them and candidates want me to help them. And, I coach people but there's not a lot of time where I'm actually heard, right? Because I'm spending 99.9% of my time hearing other people. And that's true for most of us, right?
Yep.
So to come into an environment where, basically it's not a spectator sport. So if there's 10 people in the room, my expectation is that each person is going to talk about what's going on for them for about 15 minutes. So that can be a little, that can be a bit scary, right? And then suddenly you start to talk about, and everybody thinks that they're a unique little precious snowflake and everybody's completely different and all their problems are completely different and nobody would understand my problems because they're and then you come in and you say, I've got this problem, and 8 other people in the room go, oh yeah, we've had that.
We had the same problem, yes. That is right, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
We're all human, right? As humans, we think that we are the center of the world, but honestly, we're not.
Yeah, well, as I say, some people find this a bit depressing, but I think it's actually fantastic. Sooner than you would hope or imagine, you're going to die, right?
Yep.
And after you die, it won't be that long before nobody ever remembers you're alive. Unless you're a really, really famous person, by the time it's your great grandkids, they might see written in a book or on a photograph Hossein, but they don't know you're not part of, right? So if you're definitely going to die and not long after that, nobody's going to ever remember you're really alive,
Exactly.
why do you care? You know, why strive so much?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I need to work hard and do 80 hours a week because I want to be a CEO and I want a Jaguar and I want, and, I've sacrificed, and then they become the CEO and they go, oh, this has been my goal for 25 years. And then they go, I'm actually underwhelmed.
So what? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't actually like being the CEO. My kids hate my guts. I'm 50 kilos overweight. Was it worth it? Well,
I think this is a big question, Richard, and I think you started something that probably we can go for another 2-3 hours. But you reminded me of Stephen Covey's having end in mind. Basically, you need to have end in mind, which is basically you'll die. And he writes in his book, The 7 Habits, that basically imagine that you are dead and you are in your own funeral and you want to talk about it.
yeah,
So what do you want to say? Do you want to say, I became CEO, but I didn't like it. I did this, but I didn't like it. I did all this. I totally agree. You remind me another thing about the high performance thing that people. There was a book, I forgot its name, but it was talking about a stare. Have you heard about a stare? Like it's a basic acronym. It's like S stands for like selflessness.
okay,
Talk about like you should not have focus
yeah,
on your ego, and the T, I think it goes for like timelessness. So basically, you're really engaged in what you do. And then the E stands for effortlessness. So basically,
right,
whatever you do, there's no. It seems like, as you mentioned this nicely, that you shouldn't be like striving to do it. And the last R, I think it refers to like richness information. So when you are this, you are so engaged, everything comes to you like richness. So that Buddhism.
yeah. Look, a lot of those books, whilst I appreciate the intent, they're basically rubbish, right? So so for example, I talk about um, if you want something that you don't currently have, that becomes your preferred reality. All right. So I'm existing within my current reality, but my preferred reality is I want to be 30 kilos lighter, or I want to have an excellent relationship with my kids, or I want to become a CEO, or whatever it is. Right. So once you understand your current reality and your preferred reality, then it sets up a tension between those two things that must resolve. All right. And so this kind of idea of, for example, selflessness, okay, what does that even mean? I am a self, right? Now we could argue whether I am actually a self, and I'm happy
The
to have that
philosophically is
conversation.
a bit, yeah, it's a
All
big,
right, we won't go there today, right? So,
yeah, yeah.
but so how as a self can I be selfless, right? It's also this idea of effortlessness. I said to you, this
That's awesome.
effortlessness, right? In
That's
that,
great.
of course, there's going to be effort. You can't just go down to Byron Bay and buy a magic
Do
crystal,
nothing.
and stand in front of the mirror and rub the crystal and say your affirmation, CEO, 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 and one day you're going
Then
to
you
wake up
become
and
a
you're a CEO,
CEO.
right? You must take action. And so I think with a lot of those sort of new agey think and grow rich, the power of attraction, all that kind of stuff, where they don't emphasize is the fact that it is an action orientation.
No,
Okay. Yeah.
definitely. I totally agree. But this particular person that I refer to, they are basically in line with what you were referring. It doesn't say that when I say selflessness, it means that I'm just I can let anyone to abuse me, or I'm not gonna get anything. There's like that letting go aspects of it. So you want something, there's a tension between one now and then. But the thing is, you should not really just stay here and be worried about anything. So you should be able to let it go and then focus on the action that you want to do, and then step
Yeah, exactly. So I talk about that in terms of taking your hand off the tiller. All right. So I have, and we're going way over time here, but I'm happy to talk as
yeah,
long
I
as
think
you
that's
like it. I put my attention on my preferred reality. I know that there are actions required in order to bring that about. But
perfect.
at the same time, I have to release my hand from the tiller and trust in the universe
Exactly.
to enable these things to gracefully and easily become, right? Rather than going, it must happen in this way.
Yeah.
It's really very
It's like
rigid.
with a lot of work, but thank you very much, Richard. And I know we can keep talking another hour or two about this. Maybe in the next session I can invite you and you can chat about some of these fantastic points that you brought up. Is there anything that you wanted to discuss with us that I didn't ask you?
Oh, look, where to start, right?
Just short one if you want.
I mean, I think that it is a very exciting opportunity for people, to start to create the lives that they would love to lead, right? Now, that's not just in a recruitment employment context, although that's what my business is, but, we've had it's almost like the universe is saying, okay, if you're not going to slow down, we're going to put the brakes on for you, right? It's a little bit like breaking my arm. I was saying to somebody, I work really, really hard. So, the universe is saying time to slow down. So the universe has had a breath. Now, do we really want things to go back to the way that they were? Because if we don't start to take responsibility for our own lives and being able to create the life that we live, the life that we would love, then you're just going to fall into somebody else's dream, right? Now, their dream isn't necessarily what you want for your dream. So, I think it's great to have these kind of conversations, and I look forward to checking out some of your other interviews.
Thank you.
Because I'm sure that there's lots of interesting things to, for people to get their heads around.
Exactly. These days, especially because of the pandemic, because you're hearing, I had a friend actually talk to, I think I have the same friends, Arash, and he was saying that I don't really listen to a lot of news and stuff. So it's good to minimize a little bit. I sometimes do it, just listen to a lot of news. Maybe it's too much. But thanks a lot. I talked to Richard Triggs from Brisbane. It was amazing. We learned a lot from this interview. And if you guys want to learn about job seeking and all the details about kind of CEO type of jobs or any type, you can just go find Richard's website. I'll just put it here as well in the link, and then you can get a free PDF of the book. Is that right, Richard?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you very much, Richard.
No problem at all. Have a fantastic evening.
You too. Thanks a lot.
All right then. Bye-bye.